What does the term government experiments immediately remind you of? Many would think about weird conspiracy theories, comic book super soldiers, and even mutated animals. Did you know a team of scientists were able to produce silk stronger than steel through protein found in goat's milk? Did you know a two-headed dog was successfully created as an outcome of a surgical experiment? Finally, did you know there was an experiment funded just to find out root cause of conflicts among prisoners and guards? Hit the like button because I will briefly list out the true stories behind 10 scary and weird scientific experiments that were approved and funded by government itself. In 1960s, during the Cold War, espionage was the name of the game. Think of this rather interesting happening. The US intelligence unit, CIA, squandered $10 million in attempts to train a spy cat. In this project, the CIA surgically implanted listening gadgets, a tail-based antenna and a battery. In the CIA's effort to outfit the cat, named Acoustic Kitty, the unthinkable happened. The poor animal slid under a speeding taxicab and was crushed. Was this accidental? Was it a deliberate, sacrificial act to close a controversial monstrous program? We'll probably never know. Interestingly, the government did not tell Americans about Acoustic Kitty until 2001, when Clinton administration finally released the secret classified documents. You likely know about those horrific science fiction movies that feature living disembodied heads. Still, many governments have funded such creepy programs by medics who want to achieve a chilling feast in the real world. In 1954, doctors finally performed a pioneer human organ transplant, the first being a kidney transplant. Experts then suggested the possibility of head transplant. In 1908, US surgeon Charles Guthrie successfully transplanted a dog's head onto another dog's neck, all funded by the government. Later on, in 1951, Vladimir Demikov, a Soviet surgeon, attempted to perform a canine upper body transplant. In response to Demikov's work, in mid-1960s, the US government funded the renowned neurosurgeon Robert J. White's project. Dr. White sought to experiment by transplanting dog and monkey brains into other animals' necks and abdomens. Finally, in 1970, Dr. White successfully transplanted a living rhesus monkey's head onto another monkey's headless body. Have you ever heard about Unit 731, the Imperial Japanese Army Special Unit? The squad committed shocking atrocities disguised cleverly as scientific experiments. In 1984, the Japanese government finally admitted the state-funded researchers had conducted cruel experiments on humans. The state believed that these experiments would help the Japanese prepare for possible germ warfare. The dreaded Unit 731 was established in 1938 to develop biological weapons. The unit received support from Japanese medical schools and universities. They supplied the unit with research staff and doctors who carried out questionable experiments. In this project, Unit 731 employed civilians and Chinese prisoners as guinea pigs to develop lethal diseases. The researchers injected wartime prisoners with anthrax, the plague, cholera, and other pathogens. Most horrifying, some of these experiments featured vivisection without anesthesia. The researchers even used pressure chambers to test how much a human being can take without bursting. Distinguishedly, the post-war US administration offered safe passage to these perpetrators of these terrible atrocities to access information on their findings. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment involved a study of untreated syphilis among the black male population. In the name of receiving free treatment, the study turned out into an infamous tragedy, attracting widespread condemnation. Initially, 600 men enrolled for this project. The scientists in charge carried out the study from 1932 to 1972. 399 of these men had latent syphilis. 201 men provided the experimental control. Doctors from US Public Health Service monitored the project. Instead of giving them recommendation penicillin treatment, the doctors administered placebos, including mineral supplements and aspirin to test the subjects. Doctors sought to understand the effect of spread of syphilis on humans. Tragically, 28 men died of syphilis and as a direct result of these unethical procedures. 100 men perished of syphilis-related complications, while 40 spouses contracted the disease. Consequently, 19 women who gave birth passed on syphilis to their newborn children. In 1997, US President Bill Clinton apologized to the survivors and their families due to the tragic government experiment. The president admitted that government action was profoundly and morally wrong. Vladimir Demikov is recognized as the first medic to have successfully performed a coronary artery bypass surgery on a warm-blooded creature. Despite being a successful surgeon in coronary and organ transplant surgery, the medic performed some embarrassing experiments, thrusting him into disrepute. The infamous two-headed dogs experiment is one notorious example of his downfall. In the two-headed dogs project, Dr. Demikov stitched a puppy's head, shoulders, and front legs onto a German Shepherd's neck. Since both dogs could move around independently, after the surgery the project appeared successful. However, they soon died due to tissue rejection. Demikov repeated his experiment 20 times, but longest these creatures lived was 1 month. Many considered this experiment cruel and condemned Dr. Demikov for this. In a most disturbing experiment, Dr. Leo Stanley, a physician at California San Quentin prison, transplanted some executed criminals' testicles onto living inmates. The doctor believed that these criminal males had a common characteristic: they all had low testosterone levels. He believed that raising testosterone levels would reduce crime rates. In his theory, Dr. Stanley turned over 600 inmates into his test subjects. Then came the most horrifying action. The doctor injected his victims with liquefied animal testicles when he could not get enough human testicles. To prove his success, Dr. Stanley later cited a Caucasian inmate who claimed to feel energetic after undergoing a testicle transplant from an executed convict of an African American background. In 1971, researchers from Stanford University experimented with investigating why prisoners and guards always seem to be in conflict. The researchers assigned 24 students to play the role of prisoners and guards, putting them into a prison-like environment. However, in just 6 days, the bizarre study abruptly came to an end. They initially planned to experiment for 2 weeks, but that did not happen. The researchers found it impossible to maintain and control the order in the experimental cells. Interestingly, prisoners who became guards were instructed to shun violence. Shockingly, a third of the guards became abusive. The surprising thing is that the abusive prisoners passively accepted cruel treatment, leading 2 of them to emotional trauma.
I was sort of fascinated myself that people were believing the act.
2 Russian scientists, Dr. Boris Levinkowski and Sergei Brukhonenko, once released controversial videos featuring dogs' heads kept alive through an artificial blood circulation system. The released videos were known as experiments in the revival of organisms. In the controversial video, scientists used autojector, a piece of special heart-lung equipment, to display dogs' heads blinking their eyes, licking their mouths, and wiggling ears in response to sound. In 2005, American scientists repeated the same experiment by flushing the dog's blood and replacing it with sugar-filled saline and oxygen. The unthinkable happened. The dogs came back from the dead 3 hours later after undergoing an electric shock and a blood transfusion. Experts considered MKUltra among the CIA's most notable projects. The CIA intended to develop a mind control technique to be unleashed against enemies during war. The agency carried out their project from 1950 to 1970. The primary goal was to put America in the lead of mind control technology. However, in time, the project degenerated into an illegal drug testing regime, targeting thousands of citizens. The CIA used drugs and chemicals like LSD to inflict psychological torture. The agency even tried to manipulate the victims' mental stables by altering brain functions. In a curious move, the authorities ordered the destruction of all project-related documentation. Despite this, in 2001, more than 20 pages of the program's documents were released under the Freedom of Information Act. This might sound more like a science fiction, but can you imagine scientists' gallant attempt to grow human brains in mice? The surprising truth is that it happened. A group of scientists discovered that they could dry a pig bladder tissue into an extracellular matrix powder. In turn, this powder could help regrow human fingers. Interestingly, the researchers also found that pig bladder lining cells commonly contain a unique protein that boosts tissue growth. This is strikingly similar to the way lizards grow their tails. In contrast, the typical mammal grows scar tissues to heal injuries. This prevents future cell growth. More recently, a few scientists achieved the impossible. They succeeded in injecting a human's embryos stem cells into brain of an unborn fetal mouse. However, after the birth, the human brain cells continued developing together with the mouse brain cells. Astoundingly, this proved human stem cells can grow into cells while encased in another living creature. Doctors have used similar treatments to develop new fingertips, reattach several fingers, and regenerate an Iraqi war veteran's destroyed muscles. In another development, a team of scientists succeeded in inserting the genes of spider silk into goats. Once they did this, the goat's milk contained a protein that forms silk. In turn, this likely makes it possible to harvest massive quantities of silk from goat's milk. Experts considered spider silk to be 5 times stronger than ordinary steel. Overall, medics believe this discovery will help them design artificial limbs and bulletproof vests. These horrifying tales prove that humans will do anything to further their ambitions. One crucial detail is that researchers accomplished all these listed atrocities with official government support and funding. What do you think of these experiments? Do you know any other such conspiracies that I might have missed? Share thoughts and stories in the comment section, as I would love to read them. Also, if you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you're notified when I'm back again with a new intriguing video.